Take control of your finances. Gain insights from top industry professionals. Financial topics that matter to you from your go-to resource. This is Right on the Money with your host, Dennis Mattern.
Hello and welcome to Right on the Money, the show that features financial advisors, insurance professionals, and fiduciaries that discuss financial topics that empower you to take control of your finances. Now, I'm your host, Dennis Mattern, and we are so glad that you've taken time out of your day to spend with us. And I want to remind you that you can watch full episodes on our YouTube channel or rightonthemoneyshow.com. Now, today we are hosting a very special Right on the Money Show episode. We have gone virtual, and today our guest is Pat Ginefra, founder of mylifebroker.com out of Newark, Delaware. Pat, great to have you here.
Thanks, Dennis. Good to be with you again.
Let's talk about what's going on out there in the world as it relates to clients, as it relates to finance, and tell us a little bit about some of the things that are going on in your practice now as it relates to your focus on education and working with clients.
Well, sure. We continue to reiterate the same basic principles that really have made it a success for our clients, and that's really the plan. It gets back to the fundamental, I call it the basic blocking and tackling. You've got to have a plan for income in this climate, and you always have to have a plan for income. So that's really what we're emphasizing. The risk is fine. It's great to take some shots in the market, but and you could see it, once you start to commingle that income with the rest of the assets at risk, you run in danger of messing your retirement up. So what we're trying to do is emphasize that you have to have a plan for income. That's what makes the retirement a happy one.
Yeah. What kind of mistakes are you seeing? Any big mistakes or any situations with clients where you're kind of having to talk them off a ledge, if you will?
Well, I think there's a tendency right now. Some people obviously got nervous, maybe about the markets and did some things, but a lot of folks are hanging in there. And I don't know, if that's a good idea or not. Obviously, no one knows what the future holds. But basically, by hanging in there, you've got a plan that's already been stress tested and failed. So holding on to that strategy isn't necessarily recommended going forward, because ultimately you're going to have to deal with a reckoning day where you have to convert those assets into income to have that retirement plan. And I think sticking with what you've got right now is just really prolonging the inevitable. Even if markets come back to where they were, there's another chance there's going to be a crash down the road. Might happen 5 or 10 years from now, but it's still going to affect you. So at some point, you've got to reformat that income, and you've got to say, I'm taking some of the risk off the table, and this is my requirement for my essentials. And that you've got to cover with basic income. Just look at pensioners. They're some of the happiest people out there in retirement. They have nothing to think about. They get checks every month, they spend them, and they get replenished. And that's the key to a happy retirement.
We're in the midst of a pandemic right now, but really as you're designing portfolios and working with clients, whether it's COVID, whether it's a major market downturn, this is something that you're building portfolios to be able to withstand, correct?
Well, absolutely. We've got some defensive positions on the wealth management side, but, the key to our approach has always been to separate the income from the risk. So we're not going to do all the same things with all the money. We're going to have a mission for each part of the retirement. You've got to have that liquidity, that short-term liquidity and emergency money. You've got to have that income bucket, which is going to be that Social Security strategy, that optimal strategy. You've got to have a plan for long-term care within there, and you got to fill that gap. This cannot be a maybe proposition in our opinion. We know that the clients that have taken this approach are literally unaffected by what's going on right now, because they know they have X amount of income they can rely on. Now, I guess the misnomer is that you don't invest in the stock market. You absolutely need to have a growth strategy in that what we call growth bucket, because you're going to have to reconcile inflation, and you're going to need to have assets that are going up along with inflation. I think inflation now could be one of the biggest fears, and it's always a concern for retirees, but particularly with all the financial aid and all the stimulus that's been pumped in, every time you print a dollar, you basically devalue the dollar, right? If I have a dollar and I create another dollar, I really have 50 cents. So what you're going to see in the future, I think, is inflation. And again, you've got to have an income strategy that's going to address that.
Mm-hmm. So I would imagine, since you work with so many clients that of various ages, it's got to be a very interesting time having conversations with them, looking forward, because eventually there will be a recovery of some kind. So tell me a little bit about what it's like working with those clients that are in that maybe 10 years till retirement versus those clients that are right there at the door, and then those clients that are in retirement.
Sure. Well, I think anyone that's out a little bit further than 5 years, they don't have that pressure that, people that are feeling the pressure now that are either retiring this year, 3 years, 5 years, they've got to have something concrete to fall back on. They can't take a chance that things are going to be normal. And even if they do normalize, I think there's going to be some scars left here. I think we're looking at maybe a 90% economy at best going forward. And, to think that things are just going to be rosy, I think is probably not going to be an accurate scenario. If you've got a little bit more time, if you've got maybe 10 or 15 years, obviously, a lot of these things don't matter because you can still glean average returns in a portfolio and get to where you need to be. The big problem is people are out there in these cookie cutter portfolios. They're being sold across the board by all the large companies. And, there's really no one at the helm. So it's passive investing. And you've got to have a better strategy than that to retire. So again, we like to break it out into 3 different buckets. It's very simple and it works. Liquid, income, and growth. You've got to meet the needs in each one of those strategies to have the right future.
All right, Pat, hang on one second. Don't go anywhere. We need to take a short break. But when we come back, there's going to be more with Pat Ginefra, founder of MyLifeBroker.com. And he has a message for the American retiree that you'll want to hear. Stay with us. We'll be back with more Right on the Money.